Now, when you look at where we've come from, this is an ancient skull on the side here. You can see perfectly straight teeth. And that's normal for ancient skulls. Here's someone from the Inuit population, about 100 years ago now. And it was about the time when the Canadian government recognized the Inuit population as being Canadians. They were offered social housing and food stamps. And as idyllic we might think it may be to live on the ice, they moved en masse into social housing and a westernized diet. And a guy called Waugh took these images. He knew Weston Price. He was doing a similar sort of thing as Weston Price. And he was noticing within one generation, these populations went from great facial development, perfectly straight teeth, to the levels of crookedness, malocclusion, deformed faces we see in our modern population today. Now, this is a purebred population, so it certainly didn't seem genetic, not anything that happens in a single generation. Now, sometimes you need to stand back and look at the bigger picture in all of this, because we're too het up. We're seeing this as normal, saying, well, we've got too many teeth. We've got to take some out, straighten the rest up. Sorry, mate, you were dealt a poor hand. You've got too many teeth, we'll have to take some out, straighten the rest of them up. It makes logical sense when you actually see it, but when you stand back in the broader picture, because, of course, our recent ancestors, the ones we've got lots of skulls of, they had pretty straight teeth. Yeah? Our ancient ancestors, they always had straight teeth. Our primate ancestors, perfectly straight teeth, and this have been studied well. Now, I was reading my nephew a story, and he had a Build Your Dinosaur page in the story. And it kind of just struck me, reminded me, should I say, that as vertebrates, we all have approximately the same number of bones. They all approximately link in the same places. And none of these had too many teeth for their heads or their mouths. Something decidedly strange is going on. Now, what do I think the likely causes are? So what's happening? Well, I think the likely causes is a change in muscle usage. We're using our musculature differently than we used to. I'm going to talk the mandibulolingual posture. Mandible is the lower jaw. So the mandibulolingual is lower jaw on the tongue. The position of the lower jaw on the tongue, for most of the time, that's your posture. And then we'll talk about swallowing pattern. I'm not going to talk greatly about dietary deficiencies, about the work of people like Weston Price, and I know a lot of people are very interested in this. I think it was a little bit of a red herring for Weston Price, because he saw all of these people with the facial degeneration, and it was around the same time as we were having vitamins were being discovered. And vitamins were all specific. So certain vitamins had certain effects on the body. And it was assumed by Weston Price that it was certain elements of the diet were causing this change or this facial degeneration. And I think he missed the point that it wasn't the elements of the diet, it was the toughness of the diet. And I think that has caused a certain amount of confusion with the science. Now, I can shorten that to say, rather than mandibulolingual posture, it's tongue position. And the swallowing pattern, to a greater or larger extent, is tongue function. Of course, the lips are important as well. Now, when we're going to talk about muscle usage, this individual on the left there has got a mild form of musculoskeletal dystrophy. The one on the right has a normal, traditional type of musculoskeletal dystrophy. Now, that affects the muscles. It's a disease of the muscles, it's not a disease of the skeleton, and yet it has had a gross change in the skeleton. This person's face is, well, it looks gormless for a start. But what's amazing here, this girl as it is, she's biting together. Those teeth are touching. Now, this is a normal template of a modern human, and I'm not going to say modern humans are totally perfect now, as you'll see. but she is grossly distorted from a muscular condition. Now, we can then look at something like unilateral muscle weakness, because it's a great example. These individuals grew relatively normally before they got this situation, and this situation happened on one side of their face, not both sides of their face. And by being one side of the face, the other side of the face acts as a control. So we know what would have happened if they hadn't had this problem. Well, they've had a stroke. And all the stroke has done is it's killed the nervous innervation so that there isn't the nervous innervation to stimulate the musculature. That's caused less muscle usage, and that's called these gross changes, which you can see from over here has affected the skeleton as well as just the muscles. Now, here's a fellow who was perfectly fine for his first wife. And by the time he got on the second wife, he was looking worse for wear. Now, he's got another muscular disease. We don't think it's muscular dystrophy, or he'd probably be dead by now. But it's some muscle plate disorder. And what's happening is his face is grossly distorted. And I would say that it's kind of like molded into his chair. So the way his head hits on the chair, that's the way it's molded to. It's like a bit of jelly put down somewhere. Now, we're talking about muscle usage. Primarily what we've gone from a really hard, tough diet. Our ancestors, for millions of years, have had a tough diet that was of low calories. It was a low-calorie diet. You needed to eat a lot to get the food on board. To get your nutrition in, you ate a lot of stuff, and it was tough. We've moved over to a soft food with high calories. Now, we're doing a hell of a lot less work with our oral musculature. I estimate it's in something in the region of 5% of what we used to do. If we did that with our bodies, I think we wouldn't be surprised to have gross changes. We're probably doing about 30% of the muscular effort our bodies that we should be, or we were doing. Now, resting muscle tone affects posture. You see Arnie standing here. I mean, he's got a posture out like this. That's how his arms rest. And that's because he's got such good muscle tone. It affects your resting muscle position. Now, when we're talking about this diet, these soft food, high calories, we don't realize, because we see it as normal to have the sugar, wheat, rice, potato, and all the pulses in our diet. We don't realize that we've collected these individual freak, mainly grasses, from around the world and brought them together. You know, they were quite rarely occurring in our previous diet. And we didn't have nearly such a high-calorie source as those things, and they are very soft. Now, there's some very interesting experiments done here. This one here, a personal favorite, it was done by a guy called Harvold. And Harvold did no more than take a piece of plastic and suture it, tie it in to the roof of the mouth of monkeys. Monkeys, of course, normally have perfectly set up teeth and perfectly shaped faces. He put this bit of plastic in the roof of the mouth, and he got gross skeletal changes in all of the monkeys of his experimental group, and of course none of the control group.